Hello out there. Oh yeah. Happy Friday. We're on the air. Who's the guy that says that? Fractal Bitcoin. Oh yeah. No, it's Kool-Aid Man. Could maybe both of them say it. I don't know. I got lots going on here, as you can probably tell. But we're here. Everyone's mad at me. Everyone's mad at me right now because I keep changing the time of the show. But it's tough. It's tough. I'm out of my routine. As you can see here, we got a different location today. Same location, but different angle. Both my laptops were dead and the plugin wasn't working. So we had to switch here. That's why we're a little bit late. We're only an hour and 20 minutes late. Okay, well, happy Friday, everybody. I don't know what the heck's going on. I think we're live. Maybe this is a poor time for people. What day is it today? Thursday? Friday. Wednesday show set a new record. Over 800 people watched that show on Wednesday. So I would like to keep the momentum going. I would like to keep the good vibes going here. And it looks like another day, another all-time high. 77,240 US dollars is our new all-time high. We just keep going. And we haven't even started yet. So cheers to you. Jason says, do I have a beer going? I do not. I should have. There's beer in the fridge too. I didn't really want to. I don't know. It's not my beer, you know? So we're just going to get buzzed on espresso again today. Sorry, this table's kind of shaky. I really got to pay attention to where I am. Nice view here, though. This is very Bitcoin journey-esque. It's kind of the vibe of the show here. But anyways, good to see everybody. Happy Friday. Happy new all-time high. We're going to have a good show today. Again, this is, I was going to call this No Agenda Friday, but it's been No Agenda Week. So we're going to kind of do the same thing. I don't have too much of a timeline. I'm actually between 2 p.m. here and midnight or even 1 a.m. today. I am here with Arnie in the condo. I can't really go. I think we got to run somewhere, but I'm on babysitting duty here. So this stream might go for 8 hours today. Just kidding. But we'll see. We'll see how things are going. I did want to give a shout out to Wyatt Entertainment here. Okay, I got to stop hitting the table. But he or she is the winner of the 88 Sats today. So it says 8 people waiting on November the 8th on the 88 Sats channel. And Wyatt Entertainment is going to get 88 Sats, just to continue with the theme there today. So Wyatt, if you're still in the chat, throw your Lightning address in there and I'll send over some Sats. And if not, that's cool too. We're going to set a goal for 5 super chats today and share how I'll celebrate. I'll buy some Bitcoin. It's Fat Zap Friday over in the Zap stream too. I don't know if anybody's over there or not. We got the Zap stream running today. Let me check. I got to be very careful here with what I'm doing. I want to have a good experience for people here, not all shaky. Can you guys hear me okay, guys and girls? Just maybe give me like a thumbs up or something in the chat if I'm loud and clear. Okay, we got to change our thing here in Zap stream to be, what did I call it today? Another day, another all-time high. And it is Fat Zap Friday today. So if you are watching in the Zap stream today, I'd like to welcome you here. Let you know about our promotion going on, Fat Zap Friday, the biggest Zap you can imagine. That's what we're doing over there. Okay. Wyatt Entertainment. I don't have a Lightning wallet yet, but it's okay. Well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get you one right now. If you have a phone, you can easily get a Lightning wallet. If you're in the US, use Coinos. So just go to the App Store, use Coinos. Well, we can wait. There's no rush on it. I'm not going to sit here and wait for you, but just grab yourself a Lightning wallet. If you're in Canada, get Wallet of Satoshi. There was we set a couple new people up with the Lightning wallet last night. I gave away a little bit of sats at the meetup. And if you need Wyatt, if you're still in the chat, if you're actually want to get a Lightning wallet, you might as well do it. It's a good day for it. Friday, get some free sats. Start off the wallet on a good note. But if depending on what country you're in, just let us know, and I'll tell you which wallet to use. Buck 52,000. Hello. 8 is the number of wealth. It is, eh? It is, eh? Infinity, right? Infinity, that's the 8. That's what somebody asked me what the 88 sats channel was represented last night. And I said, what the year I was born, 88 sats, but it's also the golf project. And that was kind of the highlight of the thing last night. Everybody's really impressed with that initiative that we got going. The 88 sats project had a couple people ask if we could turn it into the 89 sats or 90 sats group. But kind of what I think is going to happen, I think that there'll be people who, lose interest, want to sell their share. So I think in the next couple of years, there will be some shares available. You have to pay a little bit more, obviously, than they pay, but that's how the markets work. Bitcoin is the 8th wonder of the world. Is it? How many wonders of the world are there? Bitcoin's definitely a wonder of the world, though. That's for damn sure. Jason, good afternoon, my friend. I am Lexus Media. It's a good question. Do I keep any cash? A little bit. Not much. The cash that I usually hold actually is American, mostly because our dollar here is a joke. The American dollar is just as much of a joke, but they have a better way of keeping their illusion up. They have a bigger military. So, the purchasing power of our Canadian dollar compared to the US dollar has dropped like 50% since Trudeau took office, and it's not looking like it's going the other way. So any cash that I have, I usually keep it in US dollars. It's the US dollar is kind of like the Bitcoin for pre-coiners, people who aren't into Bitcoin yet. I see Sober Grizzly BTC is over in the Zap stream. Let me post this to Nostr. You know what? I was very, I'll talk about the meetup a little bit here in a sec, but I was very impressed at the meetup last night because I mentioned Nostr in my little keynote or presentation, whatever you want to call it. And there's 2 or 3 people who were on Nostr at the Bitcoin meetup last night. And I was pretty impressed with that, to be honest with you. I met, a guy followed me and I followed him back there at the meetup on Nostr. Kind of cool. It's catching on. It's starting to catch on. Struggling with moving all my cash to Bitcoin. Yeah, and the tough thing with cash is that you have to put it through the bank first. And the main reason why a lot of people hold cash is to not have to hold it inside of a bank. So in order to buy Bitcoin, for the most part, you can, you have to put it into the fiat rails first and KYC yourself and then do it. So I get that. I think that the one thing I would say to you, if you are in either Canada or in the US, you can convert that cash up to, I think, $3,000 a day, $1,000 per transaction, but $3,000 per day using Bitcoin Well services. So, and this is not specifically for I am Lexus Media here. This is kind of for anybody in the US or Canada who's listening to this. Bitcoin Well actually has a very good service for converting cash into Bitcoin. And that's all I'm going to say on it. There's a way to do it in a good fashion where nobody knows that it was you who did it. So what I would suggest for anybody in Canada and the US, I think you should familiarize yourself with that process itself in terms of converting cash to Bitcoin. Bitcoin Well is the only platform that I'm aware of that actually offers that service. So check out Bitcoin Well. What I would suggest, again, for Canadians and US people is get yourself like a verified account. So use bitcoinwell.com/Jor. Get a verified account on there. You have to put in your ID, your email, your phone number. But that's like for e-transfers, for wire transfers, for the mainstream way to do it. but then set up a secondary account. You can probably use my link too. I don't know if it works or not or what happens with that, but you can actually get a light account at Bitcoin Well. So I would suggest having 2 accounts there, one for this verified and then one that you can just use for your cash purchases. And it looks like I was actually, I was at Quickbit this morning. I had a meeting with Dale there, not really a meeting, but a chat with him. And we talked to Conrad from Bitcoin Well, and he kind of walked us through the process of using cash for converting into Bitcoin with Bitcoin Well. So that's what I would say. If not just Lexus Media here, but anybody out there in Canada, the US, get yourself a verified account for the transfers, like using the fiat rails, and then get a light account where you don't have to enter your email or your phone number or provide ID, and you can convert cash to Bitcoin. $3,000 a day, I believe. You pay a little bit more in fees, but if you're into that kind of thing, then it's good. And most people should be into that, in my opinion. Ian says, how'd the meeting go? So the meeting was awesome. It was the first meeting I've ever gone to, believe it or not. And I had to give I don't really think it was a speech. It was just kind of a presentation, I guess. Got some good feedback, met some new people. The nice thing about the meetups is it's one thing to talk back and forth here, to a webcam, but it's a totally different dynamic. It's totally different energy. You can feel it when you're face to face with somebody. And, I mentioned that at the presentation last night, like Quickbit, Dale, the store here in Regina with Leander they're way ahead of their time. I think that the brick and mortar stuff, the meetups, the face-to-face human interaction, people are going to want that in the future because we're moving into a very high-tech world here, and Bitcoin's going to power all that, but there's still going to be a very high demand for human interaction. That'll never, ever go away. No matter how many AI assistants we have, no matter how many robots are walking the earth, the biggest thing that humans are always going to crave is face-to-face interaction. And so meetups are great. I think there was almost 30 people there last night. So I was kind of expecting honestly, 10 people, maybe 12. That's kind of what I was going with, but there was almost 30 people there. There might've been 30. Great venue is a kind of a pub. I don't know if it was an Irish pub, but just like a pub feel. Had a little private room. And it was awesome. I met some people last night who I know I'm quite confident that I'm going to be working with in the future on something. And I think that that's the best way to approach this, because Bitcoin's way beyond money. If you can meet people who kind of have the same interests as you, you're always going to have Bitcoin as like your common denominator in terms of what you can talk about. So it was awesome. And I think the other thing I would say on that is I mentioned it in the presentation I gave. I said, I was talking about wallets. I was talking about key management. I was talking about inheritance stuff. But I also talked about the Bitcoin network. And this is something that I talk about all the time on the show, is the community aspect of Bitcoin, the network aspect of Bitcoin. And my whole goal with this channel, my whole goal with my life, my direction, meetups, everything is to get away from the fiat system. That's it. Will I get wealthy? Probably. I mean, if we keep hitting a new all-time high every day, wealth is going to come with it. But it's my main goal here is to meet enough people where I don't have to use that system anymore. Right. So if you find people, whether it's face-to-face or within a community on like a Signal chat or something, like you find a local farmer, you find somebody who can cut your grass, somebody who can blow your snow, somebody who can make pierogies for you. And if you're American or somewhere else, you might not know what a pierogi is, but they're pretty big here in Manitoba. Ukrainian, the good kind of Ukrainian, not the Khazarian Ukrainians. But that's what you want. The more Bitcoiners you meet, the more Bitcoiners you have in your network, the less reliant you are on the fiat system. And you could meet an accountant, you can meet a lawyer who's into Bitcoin, and then you can just pay everybody in Bitcoin. People can pay you in Bitcoin, and you can kind of just bypass that whole system. That's what Bitcoin was designed to do: separate money from the state. And if you ever watched I think his name's Hayek, forget his first name, but he talked about the sly roundabout way to go around the system. And that's what Bitcoin is: peer-to-peer network aspect of things. So I would highly suggest, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm going to be going to many more meetups here in Regina, and hopefully the people who are in this area can come to the next one or two or going into the future. Bill Knox. Good to see you, my friend. Sober Grizzly BTC says, start a meetup in your local area. And that's one thing that we learned, I think, this week is through talking to Dale, through talking to Serge, was that everything starts small, right? So if you want to get the initiative, take the initiative to find a very small place to start. You know, you might have four. Dale said the first meetup they had 4 people there. But then it grows. And a couple years later, there's 30. And then a couple years later, you go through a bull run. You get a president who's friendly to Bitcoin. And all of a sudden, there's 50 people there. And then you have to worry about finding a space big enough to fit everybody. But it all has to start small, right? Everything does. And I talked about this with Serge on the interview the other day with the golf league that we started. We started with 6 teams. It went to 8, then 10, then 12, and now we have 14 teams. Everything starts small, but you just have to take the initiative. If there's something that doesn't exist yet, don't wait for somebody else to start it. You kind of have to take some initiative here on your own. And so that's what I would say is definitely start a local meetup in your area and just see where it goes. Look at this. We got Cap Lada here. It says, this has become my favorite Bitcoin channel, and I've only found it like a month ago. No idea how you've never got recommended to me before. I got to go back and watch all these streams. A lot of value there. So one thing I would say, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I wouldn't go back and watch the live shows. There's a lot of bullshit that we do in the shows, like a lot of me drinking coffee. But what I do try to do is clip anything that I think is worth doing. I usually put into a clip. So it's usually 2 or 3, 4, sometimes like 6 clips from each show. And so you can just go through the videos. I don't suggest going back through all the lives, but go through the videos. There's pretty much anything you're looking for, you'll be able to find in there. But anyways, thanks for that comment. That's awesome. Awesome to hear. Hey, we got Dan in the chat. Dan the King. All the way from Ireland, one of our Bitcoin journeymen. We got Django, another Bitcoin journeyman. And we got Lexus Media says, is anyone like all into Bitcoin, no cash? I mean, the reason I keep cash is because it's handy. First of all, nobody knows you have it. So it's private, very good OPSEC there. But the second one is like, if something were to happen, and this has happened in my local area numerous times. I've only been there for 2 years, but there's outages all the time. And if you need gas, if you need food, groceries, if you need, in my case, it was a round of golf. But if you don't have any cash and the systems are down, then everybody's too reliant on everything working properly, right? And I kind of set up my own life and talk about things on this channel, assuming we're going to have a functioning society. There's a lot of people out there who think, you know, what happens to Bitcoin if the power goes out? And I mean, that's way too far to get into. I think the odds of the internet going down now forever is pretty much zero. It's not zero, but it's the closest you could get to zero. So the reason why you'd hold cash is just for the times when there's outages. If the internet's down, the payment machines don't work, and you never want to be too reliant on that. So that's a single point of failure. If you got a debit card and a credit card, and that's the only thing you keep in your house, I think that it's important to have some cash. But I wouldn't hold cash as like a savings, right? Any savings I have is all in Bitcoin. So if that's what you're asking there, I guess you'd say I am all in on Bitcoin. Bitcoin and related Bitcoin companies. Sound is good. That's good to hear. Oh, okay. So this is kind of what you're getting at. Yeah, I mean, it's still very tough. We're still very early, I think, to be living on a Bitcoin standard. I know that there are people in the community here who do live on a Bitcoin standard, but it's tough. It's tough because you have to, most people still rely on the banks. I still have a bank account that I paid a lot of bills from, but it's becoming easier. I mean, even Bitcoin Well, going back to them, like they're not an exchange, they're a platform. And you can actually go on there and you can deposit Bitcoin. So this is kind of thinking through this whole thing. Let's say you have a business, you've left your job, you're tired of the fiat world, you started cutting grass for a living, and you just take cash. So what you can do is you can actually use Bitcoin Well. You can fund your account. You can send Bitcoin to the account, convert cash into Bitcoin, send Bitcoin to your Bitcoin Well platform account, and you can actually pay bills from Bitcoin Well with your Bitcoin, which is kind of cool. So just like your online banking, you would set up like a payee. So let's say it's, what did you say here? Bills. I mean, mortgage is tough. I don't think we'll be able to pay our mortgage with Bitcoin for a while yet. But like utilities, phone bills, anything that you pay, like has a payee or MasterCard, you could do that. And I think that that's actually what Jack Mallers does, is he pays everything with his credit card. Like all of his, if he's eating out, whatever he's buying, he pays with credit card. And then he just sets up the credit card company as a payee. And through Strike, I believe they do that, but Bitcoin Well does that as well. And you would just set them up as a payee. So you'd pay everything with your credit card, and then you would pay the credit card company through like a Bitcoin Well or a Strike with Bitcoin. So there's ways to do it. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. And depending on what your knowledge level is, your comfortability doing that kind of stuff, there is ways to do it. It's just still pretty hard for like mortgage and rent. But even with rent, like that's a perfect example. I think in these next couple of years here, the real estate people are starting to see the value of Bitcoin. And I think that what's going to happen here in the next decade or so is that the people, maybe they don't want to sell their property. Maybe it's paid off, or maybe it's in a good area. They see it as a good investment because it's something tangible. But I think what people are going to be doing is once they become Bitcoiners, they're going to put out ads and say, this house is for rent, X amount per month. And if you pay in Bitcoin, you're going to get a discount, 10% discount. And so even if somebody like as a tenant, you're like, okay, well, I can save 10% here. I'm going to learn how to use Bitcoin. And they just use that specifically for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been used like that for a lot of years now in terms of like TV service providers, like the little boxes now. Some people only accept Bitcoin. The escort industry, they're big into Bitcoin for the same reason. But Bitcoin's always had that kind of go around the fiat system, but it's going to become more mainstream in terms of not like escort services, but like people paying their rent. So I foresee that in the near future, because imagine that you have a house that you rent out, and maybe you don't even, I gotta be careful with what I say here, but like, let's say you owned or rent a home and you had a Bitcoiner as your tenant. Nothing's going through the fiat system there. Maybe it's just your second house, right? Maybe you're maybe you buy real estate in a different city. You rent it out for Bitcoin, and maybe that's just your second home, if you know what I mean. It'll happen. It'll happen faster than people think, I think, too. Is this our usual? I thought that was Anton who does that. I don't know. Maybe this is Anton's new account here. Okay, give me 1 sec here. I got to share this to Nostr. We got to get some folks in the, whoa. Let's, in the meantime, while I'm doing this, let's bring up the mempool here. We forgot to do it yesterday. We'll do the Bitcoin Well Bitcoin giveaway too here. I feel like I'm moving very gingerly here. Thankfully, I don't know if it's thankfully or not, but I had Arnie last night, so I couldn't indulge into too many beers. So I feel pretty good today, actually. Wasn't sure how I was going to feel today after the meetup. Okay, so here is the mempool. What do we got here? I got to be on a different screen. It's kind of annoying, but it's temporary. Where is this thing? So we're currently sitting at block height 869,475. Fees are still incredibly low. Look at this. The last block that was mined was 44 minutes ago. That's kind of rare. Unless it's me trying to send a Bitcoin transaction, then that's pretty standard. But typically these blocks come in every 10 minutes. And It looks like it's been 44 minutes since the miners were able to solve the last block. So they're struggling. They're struggling to find the block equation for this one. Okay, join us in the live chat. No, I'm going to say pour a beer. Hopefully there's some people out there having a beer right now. It's probably 5 o'clock somewhere. Definitely in Europe. Holy, it's hard to type when you're in a rush. Okay. Sorry for the silence here, but that's part of the show. See you on the zaps. Okay. There we go. What were we talking about? Oh, the mempool. Sorry. Okay. So 45 minutes since the last one. How are we doing for the difficulty? Oh, we're up again. Last time we looked at the mempool, we were way behind, but now we're 14 blocks ahead. So to me, that suggests that we should have a pretty big. How come this looks different? Oh, they're all at the bottom there. Okay. Let's check out the hash rate. I'm assuming since the difficulty is up that we are pretty close to a high here, all-time high in hash rate. Yep. Look at the difficulty there. That just shows kind of the state of the network right now, more so than the price. So back in November this time last year, the difficulty was 64. And it's slowly just been climbing. So that means it's harder and harder for the miners to find blocks because there's more competition. As the hash rate, which the hash rate is basically just people plugging in, the more energy going into the Bitcoin network, the higher the hash rate. So every time somebody plugs in a Bitcoin miner and starts mining, the hash rate goes up. And so when there's more people plugging in, there's more competition. There's more, the blocks are coming in faster. So this difficulty adjustment is really, I think, one of the most underrated aspects of Bitcoin itself. And so 88, 90, it looks like here. And we're now at over 100. So we went from 64 a year ago to 100 now, just a slow climb. And look at the hash rate here. We hit 800 a couple last week, I think, and we're back right up there again, almost at 800 exahash per second. So that's a very, very strong indication for Bitcoin. The more people competing, the more energy going into the network, the more secure it is. They're the people verifying the transactions on there. Okay, we got Hobbit over in the Zap stream. Zap 69 sats. Happy Friday, y'all. Happy Friday to you. All right. What do we got here? I'm way behind again. Arnie is the 9th wonder of the world. Where's Arnie? There he is. He's snoozing. Rocco, Dan's dog, 10th wonder of the world. Jason says, I'm into that. We're talking about Bitcoin well again. Got to set up a verified account now. Yeah, so anybody who's in Canada, the US, make sure you get yourself a Bitcoin well account. It's a phenomenal platform, truly. And I highly encourage anybody, even if you're used to using Strike or Bull Bitcoin or anything else, just give Bitcoin well a try. Throw a couple $100 in there, buy some Bitcoin, use Lightning, use Layer 1. You can use Liquid on there, I believe, too. You can pay bills. You can swap on there. It's a great platform. You get 5 free tosses into the wishing well. Let's do that right now. While we're on the subject here. And my favorite thing about Bitcoin well, honestly, is that you can tell that they're Bitcoiners, right? So there's companies out there. I'm not going to name any names, but there's companies out there who are more like team government, team fiat. You can tell that by their requirements and stuff like that. Some go overboard. And I mean, I can't say I blame them. It would be very tough to run a Bitcoin. Think about it. You're going against all the big institutions with a Bitcoin company. It's tough, very tough. But with Bitcoin, well, I've talked to the guy, I know him, and they're Bitcoiners. They get it, and they're going to be on Team Bitcoin. So we should be doing, we vote with our ballots in a lot of cases, but we also vote with our money and who we support, and with our feet. So give Bitcoin Well a shot. That's my ask. They support the channel. They support a whole bunch of meetups across the country and in the US. And so, support those who support you and who support Bitcoin. So let's give away some Bitcoin here. Get your Lightning wallets out, press send, and some lucky person right now is going to win some free Bitcoin. Oh, I got to get this on the screen though first. All right, ready? We set? Go. $500 sats. What the heck was that, Arn? 500 sats. And you know what? I'm going to donate one of my tosses today for the community. I'm going to donate one of my Bitcoin Well tosses here for everybody. Just because it's Friday. We've had a really good week here. We've had a lot of people showing up in the chats. And so I want to give a little bit back myself. So that has been claimed. Congrats to whoever won that. And let's do another one here. Why not? Ready? Set, go. We won 2,100 here, I think, yesterday on this one. 500 again. That's okay. That's 500 sats. One thing I talked about in my presentation last night was the scarcity of Bitcoin. And I think everybody, I mean, nobody even knows what a sat is yet, for one. Even some people at the meetup last night didn't know what a sat was. But even Bitcoiners really underestimate how valuable these sats are going to be in a decade from now, in 50 years from now, in 100 years from now, when the entire world, all the energy on Earth is fighting to mine 500 sats. Like that's what you're holding right now. I really want people to understand that. Hopefully this is on the screen here. I can't really see both. Yeah, it is. Okay, good. So I think that has been claimed. Let's double check. Yeah. So we got two winners there today. 500 sats each. So congratulations. Congrats. So big shout out once again to Bitcoin Well. And that's what I would say. That's your to-do list this weekend. Get yourself a Bitcoin Well account. bitcoinwell.com/Jor. And you get 5 free tosses into the wishing well for using that link. Oh yeah, let's get to some chats here. Muslim Bitcoiner says it's fine to transfer cash in prices rather than mess it up in pieces, I think he means. Rather than mess it up in one big transaction because you missed a digit or letter. Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to look at it. I didn't even think about that, honestly. It's very nerve-wracking. If you've ever sent a Bitcoin transaction before, especially of a significant amount, it's a little bit nerve-wracking. And especially if you're somebody who's new into Bitcoin and you're sending transactions, it's nice when you're just dealing with smaller amounts. So that's the nice thing I like about the cash aspect of things. Bitcoin Beacon. Hello. It's a nice looking profile pic there. A dog with laser eyes. I really want to get a picture of Arnie with laser eyes. I think that would be cool for his Nostr account. Okay, here's a good question here from Prescott. Percent allocation to MicroStrategy versus Bitcoin. I don't think that there's a right answer to that. I don't think it's different for everybody. That's one thing I'll say. It really depends on what country you're in. It depends on how old you are. It depends on what you want to do with the money, with the gains from it, and also where your money's sitting right now. So I'll maybe just focus on a couple of those things just for simplicity. But for how much cash you have, I would say that's kind of the main one, is like whatever amount of cash you have, whatever amount of money you have in like a savings account, money that's out of the system. So when I say the system, I mean like brokerages, like your stock portfolio, your bonds, your retirement fund at work, any money outside of that you have that you can have access to without paying any fees or taxes on, that's what goes into Bitcoin. You get some Bitcoin, you send it to your cold storage. That's what you're going to have forever. That's like buying a piece of land or a piece of real estate. Like you're going to have that forever, or like a farm, right? It gets passed on generation to generation. That's like your main thing. But any money that you have inside the system, inside your stock portfolio, inside of your retirement fund, I would honestly put them, like, this is my experience. I'm not saying that this is what I would do. This is what I have done. Any money I have in the system is all in Bitcoin related companies. Because any company, no matter how good their sales are, what they're doing, they're holding their treasury, their savings, their equity in fiat. And it's just going to continue to melt. And eventually they'll catch on, they'll buy Bitcoin. But I'm only invested in the companies who are holding Bitcoin right now. So that's MicroStrategy, that's Semler Scientific, that's Block, that's Tesla, that's Bitcoin Well. I bought some shares in Bitcoin Well just because they're a Bitcoin company. They hold Bitcoin. And, they might turn into like an RBC of Canada here in the future. I think that they could. And their shares are like 5 cents right now. So that's what I would say. But you also have to consider, like, when you think you're going to need when are you going to spend it? I guess I'd say. So let's say that you have $50,000 worth of debt right now, and one of your goals is to pay that off. So here in Canada right now, you could take like $5,000. You could put it into MicroStrategy with your TFSA. You're not going to pay any tax on the gains on that. And maybe in a couple of years, it gets up to $50,000, and you can cash that out tax-free, pay off your debt, and you're good to go. It's much harder to do that with Bitcoin. It'd be very hard to pay off a $50,000 line of credit or a car loan or whatever by having to sell your Bitcoin. So that's what I would the main two considerations there are: where's the money now, and what do you want to do with the money in the future? Hope that makes sense. Daniel, one of our Bitcoin journeymen, says, Jor, what happens to the stock market, or better said, stock shares you own in a company like NVIDIA, MicroStrategy, when the fiat system starts collapsing? Will the shares be worthless? Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was just talking about there. I mean, that's one of the main risks, honestly. That's why I say the number one thing, if you have cash outside of that system, is Bitcoin. Because no matter what happens, no matter if there's a cyber attack, a power outage, they take down the internet for a month, with Bitcoin, whenever it comes back on, you're going to have your Bitcoin. And that's pretty important, especially given this time in history here. Things like Trump getting into office, I think, really minimize the chances of this happening now, through my perspective anyways. It could happen. It might happen. But I think the odds of that happening now are much lower than they were if Kamala would have won. That's just my opinion. That's my theory on it. But, even when the fiat system collapses, there's still going to be companies, right? There's forever going to be companies they have products and services that they can sell at a lower price than other people. And that's how you earn money in the world. That's how you add value to people. So there's always going to be companies. I just think that the companies who are holding their treasury, their assets in fiat, are going to be the ones most affected by this, because they're going to have to keep jacking up their prices. That's why I just don't even mess with any, fiat companies right now in the stock market. Like NVIDIA, I wouldn't touch that with a 8,000-foot pole. Apple, same thing. I wouldn't. Why? They're still fully in the fiat world. They have so many shareholders there. Their board of directors. It's going to take them a very long time to get to Bitcoin. Not because they don't want to. Like the CEO of Apple, Tim Apple, as Trump calls him. Tim Apple has said on mainstream news that he's a Bitcoin, like he owns Bitcoin. But the amount of hoops that a company like Apple would have to jump through to get to Bitcoin is very high. And we're gonna see some proof of this, I think, in the next month here, with Microsoft. It's the same kind of thing. They asked their shareholders, do you want to start buying some Bitcoin and hold it as a treasury? And it's a very long process for them. So even if they do figure out that they need it, they still have to take 6 months to a year for it to be approved. If it's approved, then they have to build out an entire team to manage that Bitcoin, because you have a bunch of people who you're responsible to. And so those companies are so far behind right now. And if you're under the assumption that fiat is going to continue to melt, which it is, there's no other way for it to go right now, and you're under the opinion that Bitcoin's going to continue to go up, then it makes absolutely no sense to hold shares in a company who's earning fiat and holding their savings in fiat. So I don't think they'll be worthless. They're just going to be exactly like everything else on earth. It's just going to be repriced by Bitcoin, and it's going to slowly go down and down. And the companies who aren't holding Bitcoin are going to be the ones who are most affected by that. Look at this. We got Sergio in the chat. Good afternoon. Sergio Zap 33 sats, and then 2.1 thousand sats for Fat Zap Friday. Thank you, Sergio. Our guy Sergio. I can't wait to go. Like one thing I'm really looking forward to in the world is meeting some people I've been communicating with on Nostr, like Sergio. Mav would be in there. There's a couple other people. Hazel Rocket, funny names, but you can tell they're good, solid dudes, and they're golfers too. So hopefully in the next year or so, I'm going to get down to like Nashville, Georgia, do like a little tour down there with a few Bitcoiners, and it's a beautiful thing. Golf and Bitcoin. That's been what I've been into for from day one on this channel. Ian says, in the UK, Bitcoin is still alien to people. Love to take Bitcoin as payment in my cafe. Ian, I'd be interested to know if you're still in the chat here. What do many people have Bitcoin there? Do many people pay for coffee in Bitcoin? So I'm interested in that. Okay, we got this is NPub. I can't tell who that is. Oh, Pasty Janner, evening fellow space cadets. That's what I was thinking last night, actually, because at the meetup there was like it was a pub, right? And so you walk in there, and it was like you walk through the doors, and there's a huge space of like a whole bunch of people. I got there at 6 o'clock, so it was full of people. And then in this little wee room, there was like 10 Bitcoiners, then 50, and then 20, and then it got to 30. But I went to the bathroom, and I'm kind of thinking, like, as I'm walking back into the meeting or the little private room we had, I was like, this is just such a perfect representation of the world right now. Like, there's 100 people out here sitting, drinking beer, eating food, talking about who won the World Series last week or whatever. And then there's just like a very small group of nerds or space cadets, or what do we call them here? Space cadets, yeah. Of these weirdos in this room who are talking about a whole different future, just a totally different world than outside in the main area there. This little wee room of Bitcoiners who are talking about the future of humanity and money and how we're going to be able to take advantage of that. And even the waitress, I was giving my presentation. The waitress was in there. I think she was trying to settle up some bills, but she was listening to the presentation for a while. And I was carving the government. I was carving the fiat system. She's probably like thinking like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, who are these people? But anyways, us sunshine zapped 1,000 sats, and then 69 sats, and then 420 sats. And Pasty Janner zapped 420 sats. Thank you, everybody. Zapstream is somewhat buzzing right now. I guess it was a good idea to share it on Nostr. Jimmy says, this dude is a little bit smarter than I first figured. You talking about me? You talking about me? I don't know. This was half an hour ago, so he might be gone. But anyways, I'll take that as a compliment. I don't think I wouldn't say I'm a smart person. I'm just very logical. That's all Bitcoin is. That's all this whole community is. It's just logic, common sense. And to me, it's common sense. It's logical that a small group of people, just like us, just human beings, a small group of people should not be able to print money. Because when you give a human being access to the printer, like the Federal Reserve has, shit happens. This happens. Exactly where we are today happens. So, I mean, it's nothing crazy. It's just, that's not how it should be. It's not how it was before the Federal Reserve, before central banking. I mean, why would we have to pay people to live? Right? Like, I know we're born into the system, fish born into water. It's how it's always been for as long as we know anyways. But that doesn't mean it's right. And for me, it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. So when things don't make sense, you find another way to do things. And that's what Bitcoin is. So I don't think I'm smart or intelligent or anything like that. In fact, I'm much less intelligent than a lot of Bitcoiners. But I think that that's why people enjoy the show, is because, you know, nothing's real technical on here. It's all just common sense. Cat 23. Who's this over in Zapstream? Cat 23, good to have you. Hi, all. Bitcoin Well, yes. Go to bitcoinwell.com/George. Just check it out. Again, I'm not asking you to, you know, make them your exclusive platform for Bitcoin, but just take $100, take $200, get an account, bitcoinwell.com/George. Get 5 free tosses. You get some free Bitcoin, maybe more. Each toss, you could win up to 1 million sats. And just try it out. Play around with it. Send some to Lightning. It's extremely easy to use. That's the one thing I've noticed. And they don't hold any Bitcoin either. The Bitcoin Well holds 0 Bitcoin. As soon as you send cash there, you get Bitcoin sent to your wallet. Whether that's Lightning, whether that's on-chain, they don't hold any Bitcoin. They don't hold anything. As soon as you send it and they get it, Bitcoin goes to your wallet. Which is how it should be, in my opinion. Oh, the Great Gazoo. That's who that is in there. Says the Manitoban accent is posh. What does posh mean? Every time I see posh, I think of Posh Spice. I don't know what that means. Elegant? Elegant, stylish, luxurious. Well, that's not how I would explain however I talk, but thank you. John Drome says, UK is always slow to change. I pity my colleagues. I pity the fools who prefer working overtime in NHS to staking sats. Yeah, Canada's the same. Canada's always 5 steps behind everybody, but that's okay. Time for Canada to start stockpiling Bitcoin. Well, you know what? Like, this is kind of my opinion, and I won't spend too much time because I know that there's only like 10 or 15% of Canadians who watch this show. But the one thing for me, and this kind of applies to any country out there, it's like, yes, it would be nice if the Canadian government realized the opportunity here, realized what was happening, started buying Bitcoin. And that's going to happen. It's going to come. But at the same time, it's very exciting to me that there's so many Bitcoiners who are buying Bitcoin for themselves, because at the end of the day, that's all we have. We can't be reliant on the government. We can't expect them to make good decisions. In fact, they pretty much make the opposite of good decisions anytime they decide to do anything. So yes, the Canadian government is late to the party, but that's okay, because there's a ton of Canadians who are buying Bitcoin themselves, and that takes away the reliance from the government, and that's what they hate, right? The more people rely on the government, the happier they are, because then they have control. They can tell you what to do. They can freeze your bank accounts. They can force you to put things into your body that you don't want to. It's funny listening to all the Americans, all the American Democrats being like, oh, this is, I've seen people shaving their heads. They're like, this is my last thing I have. This is the last right I have over my body. So these fucking morons are shaving, girls, women, shaving their heads. And I'm like, first of all, everybody has it wrong in terms of the Roe versus Wade thing. And I'm not going to get into it because I'm a man, so I really have no input here at all. But all Roe versus Wade does is it takes the power away from the federal government. and it gives it to each state. So Trump's not saying yes or no. He's saying, let's leave this up to the states. So that's one aspect of it. But it's like, do people forget that a couple of years ago, you couldn't go into a restaurant unless you did what they told you to do? Where was the freedom of choice then? Nobody seemed to care about it then when it was that easy. And it was like, I don't know. So anyways, the Canadian government can take as long as they want. I don't give a shit. I'm not buying it for that reason. Hey, we got Joey in the chat. Good morning in Australia. I've seen some good videos here. Make sure you check out Sats Venture. If you got time today, go search in Sats Venture in your YouTube and check out the channel. He's got a couple. He had Pomp on there as his second interview. He went from me to Pomp, and I mean, say what you want, but still very impressive. And he's been putting up some consistent weekly videos on there. So go check out Sats Venture. He's a young dude from Australia, great guy. And my interview with him is on there as well. Okay, what do we got over on Zapstream? Sunshine says the markets are closed for the weekend. Bitcoin never closes. Are they closed already? Holy. Bitcoin never closes. As Odell said on Rabbit Hole Recap yesterday, Bitcoin is the new global thermometer because it's open 24/7, 365. So the Bitcoin market actually predicted the Trump win before the mainstream news. You could tell who's going to win the election because Bitcoin was ripping. So I agree with Odell. I think that Bitcoin is the new global thermometer. But you have to keep in mind here that Wall Street, the big money of the world, don't like losing. They don't like being left out. So probably in the next couple of months, and I think there's already been one platform that's started doing this, but I think all the stock markets will be 24/7, 365 in the near future because they feel left out. And they don't like feeling that. Hello out there. We're on the air. John says, thank you so much for the educational comment. Keep spreading the good content. Sorry. Keep spreading the good news. Most of my colleagues are very intelligent, but thick with personal finance. I wish most medical doctors will listen to you. I mean, doctors of anybody should be the ones who are just stockpiling Bitcoin right now. Doctors in a corporation, like most doctors who make good money, they set up their own corporation, their own practice. And that's the ones who get, they do very well, millions of dollars per year. And they're holding it all in cash. Like I was a CPA. I did tax returns for doctors before in medical companies, and everybody's holding it in cash. It's like you've lost 50% of your purchasing power in 10 years because you're holding it in cash. So I do think that, doctors will catch on. Some probably do. That's the thing I've noticed is like the people you least expect to be Bitcoiners are Bitcoiners. They just don't tell anybody about it. There's probably a lot of people within your community who own Bitcoin or mine Bitcoin, and they just don't tell anybody about it. Look at this. Buck 52,000 says Detroit to become the largest city in the U.S. to accept cryptocurrency for taxes. Hey, what happened to? I'm way behind here, so I might not see this for a while. But what happened in Michigan? Did Trump win Michigan? I thought Trump was going to win New York. A fair election he probably would have, but did he win Michigan? I saw he won Pennsylvania, which is phenomenal for them. Wyatt says, I set up my wallet. Do I send the email to the chat that they gave me? Yeah. So it should be like Wyatt at Wallet of Satoshi or Wyatt at Coinos. Just throw that in the chat and I'll send you some sats. Joey says, I really enjoyed Bitcoin Well. I do love how smooth River and Strike are. So Joey's in the US and really enjoyed Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin Well too, truly. Like I know you're probably getting tired of me saying it over and over again, but that's the to-do list for the weekend for people. All right. El Nino says, what's the link for Bitcoin Well again? Bitcoinwell.com bitcoin.com/Jor, Jor. You don't need to enter a discount code or anything. If you just go to that website, bitcoinwall.com/Jor, they give, it just takes you right there. All right, what else we got over here? Great Gazoo says, did you do that event in Regina yet? Coming from a Sasky boy. Oh, Great Gazoo's in Saskatchewan? Wow, did not know that. I'm in Regina right now, actually. I was at the meetup here. I was at Bushwhackers last night. I did a little presentation there for people. I didn't know that. Great Gazoo. Should have came, man. Or woman. But that's it. Great Gazoo also zapped 69 sats, so thank you for that. Pasty Jenner says, who has $42 billion worth of Bitcoin to sell? Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Where's that Bitcoin going to come from? That's like the US government too. They have these big plans. They're like, oh, we're going to write up some legislations here. We're going to be buying 1 million Bitcoin. Really? Really, US government? You're just going to buy $1 million or 1 million, 1 million Bitcoin? Interesting. Where? So whether it's MicroStrategy, I mean, those are two entities on this earth. US government, pretty big one. MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is buying 42 billion over the next 3 years. Who knows what that'll get them? The US government's going to be buying 1 million Bitcoin over the next 5 years, I think. That's two entities. There's only 21 million Bitcoin. Like, if you just think objectively about this and like write down, okay, there's this amount, this is how many people, this is how many they're going to buy, this is going to be how many that are left, this is how many on our exchanges, this is how many people are in Bitcoin right now. If you just do very basic math, you can see that $77,000 is a joke. Truly a joke. And we're going to get to a point, I think it's at $100,000, that's when most people are going to be interested again. But then when we hit the 1 sat equals 1 cent threshold, when we start seeing the price of sats instead of Bitcoin, because people see this is all like psychological right now. And it's unfortunate because it's really a disservice to the average person because they see 1 Bitcoin and for some reason, most people, they think that they need 1 Bitcoin to have anything relevant. So they see it, they're like $77,000. There's no chance I can afford that. So I'm not even going to spend 1 more second thinking about Bitcoin. But when we get to 1 sat equals 1 cent, which is when Bitcoin hits 1 million, I think, when 1 Bitcoin equals $1 million, that's when it's going to go up very fast. And nobody's even going to know what the price of Bitcoin is anymore. Everything's going to be, the sats price is going to be on the tickers. So it's kind of wild, to be honest with you. Actually, I hate saying to be honest with you because that suggests everything else I say is not honest. Hey, look at this. One of our Bitcoin journeymen, Daniel Droiser. Super chat. We've been getting some super chats here. I like this little goal here, this goal thing. I've been trying to do that every show. So thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. And I mean, the people in Zapstream every day, they're sending sats and sats in there. So sats preferred, but also super chats, very, very much appreciative of that. Thank you, Daniel. AC says, sold all my Bitcoin mining stocks and MicroStrategy stocks and bought Bitcoin. That's an interesting move. I can't say I agree with that strategy, but okay, let's just take a look at this because I think that a lot of people kind of wonder about this and what the allocation should be and where. So let's look at this. Sold all my Bitcoin mining stocks and MicroStrategy stocks and bought Bitcoin and alts. So I mean, the first thing there that I would say is like, good. For real. Like, I mean, the shitty thing about MicroStrategy stocks is that you're still funding the system. Even though MicroStrategy itself is shorting fiat, you still hold your capital in the system there. And, you know, it's a between the rehypothecation of shares and all that kind of stuff, like, yeah, it says on the screen that you own a MicroStrategy share, but how many other people own that? How many people are levered against that? How many people, that's the rehypothecation thing that they get away with to keep the system going. So I do agree, if you're able to do that, I think that holding Bitcoin only is probably the best route. But for most people, a lot of people have their money in pensions and retirement funds where I don't know, am I blurry? And they have to pay fees, withdrawal fees of like 25%. So in that case, it makes sense just to hold to MicroStrategy, but I definitely don't agree with the altcoins there. If it was me, this is what I would do. If you sold all your mining stocks, all your MicroStrategy stocks, and bought Bitcoin and alts, I would say like 90% Bitcoin, 5% Solana, 2% another one, and then like 2% in memes. That's what I would do. And the other thing I would say on this is, hopefully you're still here. If not, you're probably not going to take my advice either way. But don't leave it all in one Trezor. Never mix your Bitcoin with altcoins, ever. Trezors are fine because it holds things like Solana and altcoins, but I'm thinking you would have a significant amount based on what you said here. Get your Bitcoin away from that Trezor as soon as you possibly can. Not the Trezors are bad, but you never mix Bitcoin with altcoins on a device, ever. And so that's what I would say on that. Get a cold card, get a Jade, get a Passport, and put your Bitcoin on there. The other thing you could do with that is you could take like your Trezor that you have right now and put it on put your Solana in there, your Ethereum. Sell your Ethereum, but put it on there. And then put like 5% of your Bitcoin on there, the Trezor as well. So if somebody broke into your house, use that as your decoy wallet. So that's what you would say. Here's, you got a gun to your head. You give them your Trezor, you lose 5% of your Bitcoin, your altcoins, but your Passport is somewhere else, or your Jade is somewhere else. There we go. I think we're back in focus here. Sorry about that. All right. Let's check on the Zaps. Zaps buzzing a little bit here. Okay, what is this? I got to refresh this. Holy shit, skis. We've been here for an hour already. Oh, yeah, we got Mark. It's a new face. Maybe not. Mark Zap 21 sats. Phoenix Falconer says, loving my Bitcoin journey. Oh, yeah. Pasty says, our foreign secretary of the UK called Trump a neo-Nazi sympathizing sociopath. Nuts. Sunshine says 100% Bitcoin is the best strategy. I agree with that, truly. If you have the ability to go 100% on Bitcoin for your portfolio, take it into cold storage yourself, that's the play. Always. But most people don't have that luxury. Most people have a lot of their capital still in the old system. And that's where something like MicroStrategy comes into play. Yeah, I agree with this one too. First thing I would say, if somebody hired me to look at that portfolio and say, what would you do? Number one on there would be get rid of the Ethereum. And actually, you know what? I met somebody at the meetup last night who's an Ethereum, that's what they hold mostly. There's utility there for certain things. I just think that it's dated. It's losing steam. There's better replacements for it. There are good things that will come out of like the Ethereum/Solana ecosystem, things that are built. But for the most part, like if you're just holding it for an investment, like that doesn't make any sense, right? If you're using it, if you're building things in Ethereum, it makes a little bit more sense, or Solana. But if you're just like holding it as an investment, as a store of wealth, I think that that's a horrible mistake, truly. Ian says, I Googled to see if there are any businesses that accept Bitcoin. Only a handful of places do, but none locally to me. Interesting. Should I have a beer? Pasty says no beer in that jar. I kind of feel like having a beer, honestly. How long do we want to hang out today? I haven't had beers too many on the show here. I know it'll get a little out of control. We have our golf podcast we do. I usually drink whiskey, and sometimes it gets a little out of control. Dylan says, been trying to orange pill my girlfriend and family subtly this year. Randomly dropping nuggets of thought into conversation. They just roll their eyes, think I'm a finance bro. Any thoughts? Well, no, I mean, I do have thoughts. The one thing I'd say to that is, like, I hate the term orange pill. And I don't think you should look at it because it just suggests that you're forcing things on people, right? Like, what's an orange pill? It's a pill you give somebody. You force it down their throat. Nobody wants to have anything forced down their throat. Well, most people don't. We talked about escorts earlier. I don't know if they want that either, but most people don't want things shoved down their throats, right? So I think the whole orange pill, we need to change that. That's one of my personal missions in Bitcoin, is to stop trying to orange pill people. Stop using the term orange pill. Stop using the term normie. Stop using the term NPC. It's very disrespectful to people. Truly. Like, nobody's going to listen to you if you're insulting them. And the one thing I'd say about, like, trying to open up people's minds, that's what I would say more so than orange pilling people, is, like, you have to open up their mind and show them that there is an alternative. Because everybody's living through this right now. No matter what country you're in, you're not immune to this. But everybody's living through the same shit. Their groceries cost more. Their rent costs more. Their gas costs more. Their hydro bill or their utility bill costs more. And they know that it's not like an accident. It's not how it's supposed to be. But they don't know what's causing it. That's where most people are right now. They know that there's something wrong. They just can't put their finger on what that thing is. And so once they get to that point, that's where you can kind of say, okay, well, you know, the reason why this is all happening is because a small group of people in the world have the ability to print money. And every time they print money, our dollar decreases in value. So, you know, 20 years ago, there was nothing that we could have done about it. There was no alternatives. But now there is. And it's Bitcoin. And so the thing to keep in mind there is the idea of dropping in once in a while in the conversation is good. The one thing I've learned is that unless people reach out to you or unless people bring it up in the conversation themselves, I don't even bother with it anymore. Like, I used to be exactly like that, Dylan. And I used to say, you know, people would be talking about something. I would say, like, you know, look into Bitcoin because this, you know, it fixes this. Look into Bitcoin because it's the opposite of that. But I don't even bother with that anymore because people have to be open to it. They have to have an open mind. They have to be wanting to learn. And when they're wanting to learn, that's when they are going to learn. Like, think about it yourself. The first person who told me about Bitcoin, I was like, fuck you. You're a scammer. It's because I didn't know what Bitcoin was. That's where most people are. But it's like, no, don't tell me what to do. I'll decide myself. And that's how it happened, right? I just chose to listen to a podcast that I was kind of interested in. They were talking about Bitcoin. And then so I started looking at other things around Bitcoin. And then I went down that journey myself. I went down that path myself. Nobody told me to. Nobody forced me to. I did it myself. So, you know, you can talk about things. Just to kind of round that out, is that if you are, like, having conversation with people and you have the urge to talk about Bitcoin and introduce it into the conversation, don't use the word Bitcoin. Just say the money's broken. Just start there. You don't have to use fiat. You don't have to use Bitcoin. Just say the reason why this is happening is because the money's broken. There's a small group of people who have the ability to print money, and that's a problem for us. And just leave it there. Don't mention Bitcoin. Don't mention fiat. Just leave it there. Let them think on that for a while. And then they'll be listening to a podcast that they decided to listen to, whether it's like Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn or whoever. And then Bitcoin will come up in that. And then maybe they'll be, because they chose to listen to that themselves, they're going to have different perspective of it. And so they hear Joe Rogan talking about it. And then they say, okay, well, you know what? Joe's into Bitcoin. He's a bit of a dummy, but, you know, He seems to be doing pretty well right now. And so I'm going to look into Bitcoin myself. I think that that's how people have to do it. They have to do it themselves. So that's why I hate the term orange pill, because it seems like you're forcing it on people. And the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is it's totally voluntary. Totally voluntary. You don't have to use it. You can. If you get Bitcoin, that doesn't really impact me. If you don't hold Bitcoin, it doesn't really impact me, right? So see, this is a good example here. Pasty Janner says, my plan is to sell my Solana and pay off my mortgage and travel. See, that's something, to consider there is like, what do you need it for? And that's why I asked about the MicroStrategy split before. Is like, what do you want to use it for? Are you just moving? Are you just saving forever? Then if that's the case, then just hold Bitcoin. But if you have some, you want to cash out into fiat, then you wait for the price of Solana to go up in fiat, and then you can sell it and pay off your debt. So, I mean, not all is bad, but I would still recommend, like if I was Pasty, I would probably convert that into Bitcoin first, because Bitcoin is going to go up more than Solana will. But then you have a hard time parting with your Bitcoin. So lots to keep in mind there. I'm going to need some water here or a beer. AC says, the great thing about El Salvador is we can buy our Bitcoin at ATM throughout the city of San Salvador using Chivo wallet and pay with the market with Bitcoin. That is pretty cool. Actually, at the meetup last night, there was a guy from El Salvador. Jaime was his name. Apparently, he's a pretty famous guy. He worked with Bitcoin Magazine. He was one of the other speakers at the event last night here in Regina. I don't see the Greg Gazoo. I wish he would have stuck around here, because I didn't know that he was in. Maybe I'll have to message him. Mark over in Zapstream says, put all your shit coins onto Trezor and then cry when the wallet is worth more than the crypto on there. I mean, it's funny, but it's true too. Like a lot of the coins that you hold on Trezor are literally worth zero now. And you paid $400 for the device, or $350, whatever it is. And just like Mark says, the Trezor's worth more than the crypto in the wallet. This is Pasty's portfolio here: Bitcoin, Solana, MicroStrategy, CleanSpark, Tesla, and Ponky. What the hell's a Ponky? I don't know. Well, I don't know what Ponky is. You might have to tell me there, Pasty. Okay, so we're good. We're on the orange pill subject here. Stop trying to. Actually, this is probably about the comment, not what we're just talking about. But anyways, Sharper Than Sword says, stop trying to orange pill those who continue to reject. They will eventually get in at the price they deserve. Agreed. And when they're open to it, that's the whole thing. People need to do it on their own terms, not just with Bitcoin, with anything in life. Kurt Dangerfield, 10 years of work, split in half. So damn painful. Kurt, good to see you, my friend. Bitcoin Buddha, Spaceman. Both chats, love to see that. Yeah, exactly. This is why you never mix your Bitcoin with your altcoins, ever. Because altcoin wallets just add additional attack vectors. Store Bitcoin on Bitcoin-only wallets. Yeah, don't get two Trezors. And I mean, Trezor actually has a new Bitcoin-only wallet or software. But I mean, get a Jade, get a Passport, get a Cold Card. If you're holding Bitcoin, those are the three that I usually recommend. I actually just got a Jade today. So I never used one before. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've had people ask me to help them set it up. So I'm going to try it out today, or when I get home, I guess, tomorrow. I'm going to set it all up. I'm going to give a little bit of a honest review on it. And then I'm going to compare Cold Card, Passport, and Jade through my experience with it. So kind of exciting. Taco Tuesday. Ricardo, good to see you again today. For years, I tried telling friends, family, and coworkers about Bitcoin. They laughed and brushed it off. Now they're all coming back curious, asking me, how about this Bitcoin thing? how times have changed. Yeah, it's only going to get worse too, or not worse, but better, I guess, for us. How's things looking here right now in the chat? What are we sitting at? Haven't seen Rick in here lately to remind everybody to hit the like button. Where's Rick been? How are we looking here? Now we got 40 people in here watching. We got 38 likes. That's pretty good. We'll take that. I mean, if you're watching now and you haven't yet, though, make sure to do so. And if you're in Zap Stream for Fat Zap Friday, toss a couple zaps. But the other thing too is if you're not on Zap Stream and you want to send, you want to support the show here, you want to send some money to Arnie. This is one thing we talked about last night at the meetup was Arnie's wallet, the rescue dogs. So you can scan that QR code. You can send any amount of Bitcoin to our guy, Arnie. Horrible camera work there. Horrific camera work, but I think you could see him there. So that's his wallet right there. I don't know how to do this. Right there. Ethereum will eventually go the way of the dodo. Agreed. Agreed. And you don't have to agree with me. I told people that a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago. I said, don't wait for the Ethereum price to get back to where you bought it at, because even if it does, Bitcoin's going to be so far ahead of it. And that's exactly what happened. If you look at the Bitcoin versus Ethereum chart for the last year, it's crazy. And it's not turning around either. I just don't understand. This is from Sharper Than Sword. I don't understand how one can see Vitalik and decide I'm buying his coin. Exactly. Exactly. Nathan, there's another new face. Love these streams. Unfortunately, you know, we've been having some pretty good numbers in here in the afternoon, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do them in the afternoon. I was thinking about it this morning, and I was like, I don't know if it's just the week because everything's buzzing in Bitcoin right now, or if it's because of the show. But we've definitely had like double the amount of people as usual in here. But at the same time, I can't do afternoon shows. It's just not going to work for my schedule. Because here's what I would do. I would wake up. I'd probably sleep in. I'd probably spend like 3 hours trying to get ready for the show. Just like on my phone, you know, doing stupid shit, waste my whole day, do the show, and then I wouldn't do anything after. So that'd literally be my whole day. Whereas now I wake up very early. I spend like an X amount of time preparing for the show, do the show, upload it, edit it, set some clips, and then carry on with the rest of my day. So kind of shitty, but at the same time, like it's pretty overwhelming for me to have this many people in the chat. Like I really love the show because you can interact with people on here. And when there's too many people in here, it's just kind of a shit show. So the people who do show up in the morning, they'll be there, and they have been there. And so we're going to keep doing that. Yeah. I mean, this is another thing too. This is why I don't think that. Let me pull out my chair for this one. This is why I don't think we're going to have an alt season this year, because it's too hard for people. Most people are fucking lazy. They don't want to spend more than 2 minutes trying to learn something. So you have to figure out what coin to buy. You have to figure out what wallet holds it. You have to figure out what chain supports it. You have to figure out how to buy gas for it, who sells the gas, what the gas price is, what exchange to use. Hey, there's Arnie. You trying to get on the show? There he is. There's Arn. But the other... So it's just very inconvenient for people. It's almost impossible. Like when I first got into crypto, I said this the other day on the show. I spent $500 US trying to learn how to buy it, learn how to store it, learn how to stake it, learn how to send it. And it wasn't even like I got to talk to somebody. I spent $500 US on somebody's private Patreon channel where I could watch videos of how to do it. Nobody's doing that. Like 1 in 100,000 people are doing that, or 1 in a million people are doing that. Whereas they see the price of Bitcoin going up there, they're either going to learn how to buy Bitcoin, or they're just going to buy MicroStrategy or a Bitcoin ETF. And that's why I think that now that these options exist, like Bitcoin ETFs, like MicroStrategy, I think the altcoins, we're not going to go through the same kind of hysteria that we've had historically. My take on it, anyways. Ethereum killed itself once it moved to proof of stake. I agree with that. If Ethereum would have stuck to proof of work, it might have actually survived. But proof of stake is very fiat. Ballsy Golf. Any range time today? No, but it is beautiful. It's like 10 degrees here. I probably could go to the range if any were open. But I wanted to talk about this here. Should I get a beer here? What do we got? 120. Yeah, let's do it. Fuck it. Hey, Aaron, fuck it. Sorry about that. Picked a good day to wear jeans. All right. Look at this. Good beer, too. Modelo. It's probably not a twist off, eh? Yeah, why would it be? Why would it be? Okay, well, while I struggle to open this, let's keep going here. I guess we're going to be here for a little while yet by the looks of it. This beer might have been in the fridge for a while. Let's crack a beer. We deserve it. It's Friday. We hit an all-time high 3 days in a row. We can have some beers. Okay. What else we got here? No, let's talk about this. Because I actually had this hey, Great Gazoo's back. I don't know if you left or if you heard what I said, but the meetup in Regina, I was there last night. And I did a little presentation there. I didn't know you were from Saskatchewan. Okay. So let me open this beer here. I got to use my belt. Sorry. Hit Arnie with the cap. Where'd you put the cap? You eat it? No, spit it out. Okay, Arnie's got the cap in his mouth now. All right. So I had this conversation about this last night with somebody at the meetup. They said, what's the difference between proof of work and proof of stake? Why is proof of work so unique? Or what makes it better? And I said, well, the first thing you got to know about proof of stake is that it actually takes real world energy to create it, right? That's the proof of work protocol. It takes real world energy. So no matter however you generate electricity, however you're mining Bitcoin, whether it's through hydro, like electricity, everybody has it, but it all comes from different sources. And before Bitcoin, I had no idea about any of this stuff. It just kind of took it for granted. You could turn the lights on and off. You could turn your TV on and off. But everybody gets electricity from different sources, wherever you are in the world. Here in Saskatchewan, I think it's like, I don't know. Where does Saskatchewan get their power from? In Manitoba, we use hydro. So there's hydro dams that generates energy, converts it into electricity. You plug in a miner using that electricity. That's proof of work. So you have to put in real world energy to mine Bitcoin. You don't have to do that with proof of stake. But the other thing too, and the big one, is that with proof of work, like that proof of work essentially ensures that nobody can capture Bitcoin, right? Because with proof of work, you actually have to run a node. And if you're running a Bitcoin node, that's your vote in the consensus. So until everybody running a node agrees on something, it's just going to be the same. Bitcoin's going to be the same. Nothing's going to change. So let's use BlackRock as an example here in a proof of work world. BlackRock could own half the Bitcoin, 51% of the Bitcoin, 60% of the Bitcoin. They still can't control the network, because with proof of work, the only people who have a vote, who have a say in the network, the path forward, are the nodes, the people running nodes, right? So BlackRock only is one node in the network. Even though they have 60% of the Bitcoin, they're only one vote. And if you compare that to proof of stake, that same scenario where BlackRock owns 60% of Ethereum, they now have the ability to decide, because they have the stake. That's what their stake is, 60% of the total supply. They have 60%. So they can decide now what to do. They can fork it. They can generate new Ethereum. They can fire Vitalik, right? So that's the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. And that's what makes Bitcoin so fair and so much less vulnerable to attack by big corporations and big entities. So it's pretty important, I think, to understand that about Bitcoin, is the proof of work really makes it what it is, both with the physical energy and not being able to be captured by, and the incentives don't really make sense. Like, why would BlackRock buy, take all that energy, time, educate their clients, and then have Bitcoin crash? It wouldn't make any sense. So there's that aspect of it, but they actually can't do it in proof of work without, fully capturing the energy of the network, not just the coins. Does that make sense? Great Gazoo says, Jordan, do you like music? Of course. What kind of psychopath doesn't like music? Cheers. Mexican beer gets skunky when old. Yeah, I don't know how old this is. Tastes pretty fucking good, though. I'll tell you that for free. Much better than the espresso nonsense. Alts and memes are being sold this cycle, not selling my Bitcoin. That's fair. I would still hold it in Bitcoin, though, if it was me, because Bitcoin's going to go up much higher than the other ones, in my opinion. Many will get wrecked. Yeah, many are going to be. I know that there's a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people out there who are like, yeah, I'm just holding my altcoins until the next cycle. All you have to do is look at the charts. Look at any altcoin in terms of Bitcoin, not fiat. Look at it compared to Bitcoin. So, I mean, if you know how to look at a chart, you can understand that Bitcoin's the one to be holding it in. Adam. And kind of going back to this, like, the one thing I would say to this is that, I do think that there will be altcoins in the future. I think that a lot of people out there think that Bitcoin is going to be the only thing that we ever use, like full hyper Bitcoinization, Bitcoin standard. That's the only thing we use. I think that they're dumb. There's just no way. There's going to be countries' currencies. There's going to be stable coins. There's going to be altcoins. Bitcoin's going to be the one for sure. And I don't know which altcoins are going to be around in 10 years from now when we're kind of in that digital economy. I don't know which ones are going to be around. So I'm not going to try to pick which ones. I know Bitcoin's going to be there. But then, let's say I need a coin for, I don't know. Let's say the Great Gazoo starts selling beer. And he has a Gazoo token. And you can only buy his beer with Gazoo tokens. Right? So I'm not going to buy a whole bunch of Gazoo tokens and store my wealth in there. I'm going to buy Bitcoin. And then when I need Gazoo tokens, I'm going to convert my Bitcoin into Gazoos, right? I'm not going to store my wealth in Gazoos. I'm going to store my wealth in Bitcoin. And then when I need other cryptocurrencies or altcoins or whatever tokens we need at the time, I'll just swap my Bitcoin for that, because Bitcoin's going to be the one that goes up more than all of them. So I think that that's a pretty important aspect of it all to understand there. Anyways, back to Adam. Good to see you, my friend. We don't see Adam very much in the chat live, so this is kind of cool. Good to see you, my friend. AC says, what if I move my Bitcoin and AC, I'm going to have to start charging you for time here right away. So this is like a Bitcoin consulting or Bitcoin advisory live. What if I move my Bitcoin in another passphrase wallet within Trezor, since we can have multiple wallets on Trezor? One dedicated to alts, one dedicated to memes, and one dedicated to Bitcoin, all separate. No, because it's all on the same device. Get your Bitcoin off that device. Get a different device. Sell your Ethereum. AC, here's your plan for the weekend. Sell your Ethereum. Buy a device. Move. I think you said 65%. Move 60% of your Bitcoin, or your 90% of your Bitcoin into your Jade or your Passport or your Cold Card, and keep 5% of it on your Trezor with all of the rest of it. There's just way too much at stake, right? I mean, even if it's $1,000 worth of Bitcoin right now, that's a million sats. Those million sats are going to be so far beyond valuable in the future. And now is the time when people really usually fuck things up. So it's important that you get your ducks in a row, you get your shit together at this stage. Oh, that tastes good. All right, I got to top up my balance here in the Zap stream. Give me a sec. Where is the Zap stream here? Shout out to Spaceman yesterday who boosted my Zap stream balance. I didn't know you could do that. Oh, hold on. Balance 347. Oh, wow. We had a couple people who just donated to my balance here on Zapstream. Thank you. 20 minutes ago and one minute ago. Wow. That's pretty nice. The Zapstream, man. Don't sleep on the Zapstream. They're funding the stream over there. It costs me sats every time I stream over on Zapstream. And it looks like, so Pasty boosted on there, paid some of my rent. But it's good though. I choose the highest quality one. It costs a little bit more, but I mean, people should get high quality. And I think that it's going to a good cause. Like Kieran's building out Zapstream, and I don't mind paying, like people shouldn't do things for free. So thank you, Pasty. And thanks to whoever else topped up my balance there. That's awesome. Ethereum crashing to zero would probably mean cheap sats, so I'm all for it. I mean, Ethereum probably won't get to zero for a while, but compared to Bitcoin, it will. It's just going to keep trending towards zero. Hank's son. Great name. Great name. My brother's cat's name's Hank. Greetings to all hodlers from Germany. Yes, the idiot country would sold all of its Bitcoin. Oh man, poor Germany. Well, I mean, you're still right on pace with Canada now, so don't feel too bad. And the only Bitcoin that the US has is the ones that they've stolen from people. So AC, yes, you can put everything together, not under the same wall, but within the same account. You can have multiple accounts under Trezor protected by passphrase. I mean, just don't. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's just what I would do. I had a Trezor too. Spaceman said 200 sats on me. Not sure if my posts are showing up. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up with both chats here. It's kind of tough. But I did see the 200 sats there. So thank you, Spaceman. Go time. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Cheers to just being here, you know? We've had a wild week. We got a new president, a Bitcoin-friendly president. We've hit a few all-time highs. We've had all-time highs in the channel here. There was 80 people watching here, 85 on Wednesday. We got all-time highs in super chats. We got all-time highs in subscribers, obviously. But everything's trending just like we thought it would. So if you've managed to get through the last couple of years in Bitcoin with going sideways, being called a dummy, being laughed at, being mocked, the financial stress of holding Bitcoin instead of paying your bills, then you deserve it. You deserve a drink. Cheers. All right, here's a good question from Prescott. Yo, Jor, why would AI robots want to be paid in Bitcoin? They have no emotions or expenses. When you say that, do you mean the company behind it? Yeah. Like there's AIs aren't going to be born and just all of a sudden decide that they're going to have Bitcoin. Like Tesla's not going to manufacture a robot and it's just going to decide on its own that it wants to accept Bitcoin. Like AIs don't have KYC, right? An AI can't get a bank account. So what the AIs are going to do, and Bitcoin is the currency of the internet. You don't have to swap back and forth between, US dollars, robots just accepting US dollars. That's a nightmare because you have to go through the banks. You have to do the exchange rate. You have to do all that stuff. You have to KYC a robot, which you can't do. So they're just going to accept Bitcoin. And there's no exchange there. It's just peer-to-peer, accept sats. And it's not really my opinion. It's just what's going to happen. It just makes the most sense. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you're thinking about your sats. Is like everybody on earth, individuals, companies, countries, AI, everybody is going to want your Bitcoin. And there's only so much Bitcoin. And it's the only asset that we can say that for. Right? It's a good question. I mean, don't feel like you have to dox yourself, but I'm kind of interested myself. I've always wondered this, where everybody's from. And I have a pretty good idea of the people who are in the living in the future community. But for like the people who are just kind of watchers and viewers of the show here, just maybe put like what country you're from. You don't have to give away your street address or even your city, but it's kind of cool. So $152,000 is from Michigan. Michigan deserves a lot better than they've got. That's for sure. And I'm glad to see that I watched, I think it was one of Trump's late rallies that he did there in Michigan. And it was packed. You could tell that place, hardworking people, like there's the auto manufacturers, the steel plants, very hardworking people there. And they've just been absolutely obliterated by the fiat system. So nobody deserves this, I think, more than like Detroit and Michigan. They've gone through a lot of shit because of globalization, offshoring jobs, costs going up, the quality going down. They've just been shafted. Hamburg, Germany here. We got Vancouver, BC. Richmond, VA. Oh, kind of cool. What do we got here? Silverstone. Pasties from Plymouth. Where the heck's Plymouth? Oh, I think I know where that is. I know where Pasties from. Plymouth. That is, it's Australia, right? Pretty sure that's where Pasties from. Australia. Silverstone. Says 88 saturated. To touch on that point of other coins existing, it's actually good for Bitcoin. The more options trading pairs for Bitcoin gives them more liquidity in the market overall. Absolutely. Right. And that's the cool thing. And that's what what would you call it? The mentality that I have and the world that I hope we can build here is that people should be able to use whatever they want. People should be able to accept whatever they want. Bitcoin is going to be the best place to store wealth. But like if you started a shop and you sold England. Sorry, Passy. I thought you were from Australia for some reason. England. Plymouth. Where the hell is Plymouth though? If we go back to the great Gazoo beer, he fires up a business, craft beer. Like if he wants to create his own token, if he wants to only accept Gazoos, he should be able to. Everybody should be free to accept whatever they want. People should be free to exchange it in whatever they want. That doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean it's wrong, but it means that people have the freedom to choose what they exchange in. But going back to this comment here, as long as Bitcoin exists, that's the key. And that's when we say that Bitcoin is going to reprice everything. The reason that is because Bitcoin has a fixed and known supply. Oh, I got the burps here now from the beer. But that's the key thing there, is that nobody can print Bitcoin. We know what the supply is. Nobody can create any out of thin air. And so that's going to kind of be the measuring stick for every other asset. So yes, if the Gazoo token wants to, if that's what they want to create, unless there's value there, it's just going to trend towards zero against Bitcoin. You can create as many Gazoo tokens as you want, but the more you create, the more you print, the less value it is, and the more it falls to Bitcoin, the true asset, the one that's going to reprice everything, including Gazoo tokens, including real estate, including gold, right? Because anything that you can create more of is going to lose value against Bitcoin over time. And some of these topics I talk about a lot on this show, but I think it's important to talk about it through different angles in a different way, because it's going to be one time. It's not going to be you hear something once and you understand it. But the key there is that as long as you have one asset, in this case, it's Bitcoin, that you can measure everything else against, that's fixed, that you cannot create, you cannot print out of thin air, that's all that matters. There could be 5 trillion other tokens out there. It doesn't matter. It has no impact on Bitcoin. The only thing that's going to happen is they're going to fall, unless they provide real value to people, they're just going to fall in comparison to Bitcoin over time. And that's where the value of Bitcoin is. That's why it's the best store of wealth. Nothing stops this train, like Sailor said, Mr. Dig Deeper. Agreed. And this is kind of how I think about the train, because it's kind of big enough now, but this is the train analogy that I like. Because if you understand the fact that nobody can stop Bitcoin, and every 10 minutes, like, it doesn't matter what's happening. Bitcoin doesn't care who the president is. Bitcoin doesn't care that I'm doing this live stream right now. But every 10 minutes, Bitcoin does what it does, which is creates new blocks. So think of like the train as like the blockchain. And it just keeps chugging along. Sometimes it slows down a bit, sometimes it speeds up, but it's over time it kind of averages out. And that train, as more and more people, like, it's going a little bit slower, as more people hop on, there's more weight behind it. So it starts picking up steam, right? And as more people join the network, as more people start running nodes, as more businesses start accepting Bitcoin for payment, there's more people coming onto the train. And think about a train with a whole bunch of weight coming onto it. It just becomes harder and harder to stop. It's not going to go faster on unless you start going downhill, but on a flat surface here, it's not going to go any faster. It's just going to be harder and harder to stop. So the speed of it is going to continue. As more and more people come onto it, it's just going to become harder and harder to stop. That's why I like the train analogy, is because it's a perfect representation of what Bitcoin is and the Bitcoin network itself. Ton of snow in Colorado today and tomorrow. Nowhere to go. One shot, one beer. Well, at least you got the Bitcoin journey to keep you company. All right. Did we miss anything today? I feel like I've been so far out of the loop here of what's actually been going on in the world. Did I send anything to myself even today? What's this? Oh, yeah, let's watch this. This is a good Friday clip to show. Oh, I have like a million tabs open here. Okay, let's watch this. This is our everybody's been wondering what everybody's been asking Trudeau, Freeland. How do you feel about Trump getting into office in the US? And they're shitting their pants, and for good reason. Let's listen to what Trump has to say about Canada, about freedom, about how Canada's been run. This was 2 years ago. Trump talking about Canada.
The tyranny we have witnessed in Canada in recent weeks should shock and dismay people all over the world. In an advanced Western democracy, the peaceful movement of patriotic truckers, workers, and families protesting for their most basic rights and liberties has been violently put down. Their assets and life savings have been frozen. They have been slandered as Nazis, racists, and terrorists. These are the names they've been called. They've been arrested and charged with phony crimes. They've been falsely accused of loyalty to foreign powers. I watched them. I saw those maple leafs all over the flags and the love for their country. Plenty of Americans were there too, and they love our country. They're being hunted down like enemies of their own government and treated worse than drug dealers and murderers or rapists. A line has been crossed. You're either with the peaceful truckers or you are with the left-wing fascists. And that's what's been happening. And it's been a strong line. We stand with the truckers and we stand with the Canadian people in their noble quest to reclaim their freedom. Thank you. Thank you.
Pretty powerful. I mean, I got goosebumps a couple times watching that clip today and yesterday when I watched it. Because I still remember and I remember driving through Medicine Hat, Alberta. We were in Alberta visiting family. And I remember driving past on the number 1 highway. And it was a very, I've talked about this before on the show. I've got very emotional on the show about it. And it's still, it's still very fresh in my mind. I know a lot of people like to forget that we went through that, especially those who are on the other side of things. But it was a very difficult time for me. Like, I can only speak for myself. But it was the most difficult time of my life because, even though I knew that what we were doing or what I was doing was right, I was being told by everybody around me that I was an idiot and crazy and selfish. And as he said there, a Nazi and a fascist and whatever else they called us during that time. But when we drove through that, in other words, I felt very alone, very alone. And when we drove on number 1 highway, and I remember, this is something that I'll never, ever forget for the rest of my life. I remember the vehicles lined up on the side of the highway because the Freedom Convoy was coming through. It was going from the West Coast to Ottawa. And so we were kind of in front of it, but there was people lined up. I had a whole thing of chills run through my body there. But on both sides of the highway, there was just vehicles lined up and with Canadian flags and just so they're honking. And more than anything else, it just reminded me that it gave me a feeling that I hadn't had for a while, that there was actually other people out there like me and who had the same beliefs as me. And we were led to believe that we were very isolated. That's what their whole mission was to do. Not only isolate, keep people apart, prevent them from talking about things, but they would just shove things down your throat all day long. And so you felt very alone. And I remember going down that highway and actually seeing other people, and feeling other people. And so that changed my whole, probably life, honestly. It was crazy. And so, just going back to Trump and his thoughts on it and his thoughts then and now, I really believe that having him in the US right now is going to change the lives of everybody, not just Americans, Canadians for sure, but everywhere. And I think that between having somebody in charge like Trump who believes in freedom and sovereignty and the right to choose, and away from the centralized corruption, it's going to spread worldwide. And we have Bitcoin now. I mean, Trump will be gone in 4 years. We might get another Kamala Harris. But Bitcoin's going to outlive politicians. It's going to outlive governments. It's going to outlive policies. It's going to outlive everybody. And we have Bitcoin now, and having somebody like Trump in there who appreciates that and who stands with people instead of corporations and government, it's going to accelerate. It's going to help. You can see it in the price, but you can also feel it in like the general sentiment and society. The view on everything now is changed. And so I thought that was pretty special. And, you know, I appreciate things like that for sure from Trump, because he really didn't have to say that. It was a CPAC conference in the States. He didn't have to talk about Canada or the convoy, but he did. And you saw the reaction from the crowd there, because there was so much support around the world for what was happening in Canada. And my friends, my neighbors, my coworkers, the people in Canada did not recognize what was going on there. That was a crazy thing for me, is that the rest of the world saw this for what it was. But the people who are actually here in Canada, because we're subjected to so much bullshit every day through our media and propaganda, nobody understood what was really happening unless you were actually on that side of things. So it was good to see then. It's still good to see now. And I'm a firm believer that, you know, it's going to change it's going to put a fork, as President Bukele said, put a fork in civilization. Whoa. Okay, let's this is a good point from Kaplata here. Kaplata. My only fear with Bitcoin is the fungibility increasing becomes a problem with all the regulation. We could get a fork without even forking if non-KYC coins trade at a discount. I'm not sure what that means. So you're saying that because, yeah, okay, I think I know what you mean here. I think you're saying that because Bitcoin will be so woven into society that to use it, you're going to have to KYC it for people to accept it. And I think that's totally true for like the banks and stuff. Like that's why I tell people, like, never get too concerned with having, you know, a huge amount of non-KYC Bitcoin. I think it's important that you get some. The starting point for people should be like 20% of your Bitcoin portfolio in non-KYC Bitcoin. And one thing I'm going to talk about, or have been talking about, and will continue to talk about on the multi-generational wealth course, is how to get it, how to keep it separate, things you have to do in your wallet to make sure that you are keeping it separate, things you have to do to back up your wallets and your information to make sure that you're always keeping that separate. But at the same time, it's like you're gonna need KYC Bitcoin in the future if you want, unless you want to sell your Bitcoin. If you want to, you know, if you're going the whole non-KYC route and you want to spend your Bitcoin, you want to sell it, it's going to be hard. But if you're somebody who, like me, who wants to hold on to my Bitcoin forever, never pay tax on it, just take out loans against it at the bank, understand how valuable Bitcoin is going to be and how valuable it's going to be to banks. Banks are going to be very horny for your Bitcoin. Maybe I'll title this clip that. Banks are going to be very horny for your Bitcoin. People don't understand that yet because banks aren't really even close to that. But if Bitcoin becomes like the world reserve asset, like we think it's going to, they're going to want your Bitcoin. And they're probably going to give you preferred rates for lending your Bitcoin to the bank. So instead of selling your Bitcoin and having to pay tax on it, having to worry about that whole process and keeping track of it all, just hold on to it forever. And whenever you need something, let's say you want to go on a vacation or buy a new truck or whatever you need, you just go to the bank and say, here's 1,000,000 sats. You hold a key. I hold a key. Give me some dollars or stable coins or whatever. You don't pay tax on that. That's not a taxable transaction. You're just lending it out, right? And so that's pretty much the rich dad, poor dad playbook. That's what people have been doing for decades with real estate. Is they don't sell the real estate every time they need some money. Same with farmers. They don't sell a piece of land every time they need some money. They just go to the bank and say, here's my asset. Here's 1,000,000 sats. I need some money. I need a line of credit. this is my collateral. And so you don't pay any tax on it that way, but it's going to be KYC'd, right? So it's not the end of the world. If you have a bunch of KYC Bitcoin, it's going to be very useful in the future. But the other part of that too, with the real estate stuff, is like people, and I think that more and more people will start using this strategy very similar to how people did it with real estate, where you'll have 5 million sats that are KYC'd, and that's kind of like your real estate. And you go to the bank and say, okay, here's my Bitcoin. You get some money, you go buy more Bitcoin. And then you go and say, okay, here's some more Bitcoin. The price goes up. You say half of it, I'm going to take to the bank, get more money, buy more Bitcoin. So you're never paying any taxes. You're never disposing of your assets. You're just using the bank to leverage your Bitcoin and buy more Bitcoin. People do that with real estate. They've been doing that with real estate for decades now. So it's going to be the exact same thing with Bitcoin. And banks see real estate as like the prime thing because they can easily verify that you own it, right? And so with Bitcoin, it's going to be even easier though. Imagine a world where you could walk into the bank and say, here's 1 million sats. You hold a key, I hold a key. The bank doesn't need to go to your farm to make sure that you still, have this tractor that you're using as collateral, or they don't need to go to your business and verify your inventory or your building, the shape of it, anything like that. All they have to do is look at your address. They can, in 2 seconds, verify that you have that Bitcoin, that they still have that Bitcoin. They don't have to go through all the other bullshit that they do with other assets. And they don't have to worry about the valuation of it either. Like if you look at a piece of land here in Saskatchewan, like it changes in value, and they have to continuously revalue the assets based on the lending. Whereas with Bitcoin, there's a worldwide global market for it. So they can see at any moment how much that Bitcoin's worth. There's no valuation issues there. So just understand that, like the banks are going to want your Bitcoin, and they're going to probably pay you a higher interest rate to hold your Bitcoin at a bank. Especially those who understand the sailors of the world will be the first to kind of implement that. They're going to say, we'll hold your Bitcoin. We'll pay you, 10% on your Bitcoin, and then you can have some cash for it. It's going to happen. And I think that the banks that are last to realize that are going to be gone. I agree with this. Newbies shouldn't be pushed into buying all their sats non-KYC. But at the same time, the nice thing about non-KYC is that nobody can fuck with you, right? And if you're willing to go through that extra pain, less convenient, it's worth it because you don't have to worry about anything, right? The problem though, and then, you could always go into the bank and say, here's some Bitcoin, KYC it that way, but they might say, where'd you get it from? We can't accept this because it's non-KYC Bitcoin. So it's tough. It's tough. Igor says, sounds like you're talking about the vax right now. Yep. That's what the Freedom Convoy was about, that they didn't think that the government had any ability to decide what and doesn't go into their body. I agree with this. I don't think we should ever forget what they did. And I think that they should be held accountable. Everybody's hoping for Trudeau to resign or get voted out of government. If I had another couple beers in me, I would tell you what I think should happen. And I would say prison is the bare minimum of what our government should face in terms of punishment, justice for what they did to Canada and Canadians. It's so far beyond belief and comprehension what they did. People just kind of forget about it. They're like, well, I wish I didn't do it, but I did. So, I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to think about it anymore. It just happened. But for the people who went through literal hell with their families, at their jobs, the craziest thing that happened to me with all that, outside of my job, and it was like, sometimes I think about this, and I know we're 2 hours into this on a Friday afternoon drinking beer, so I don't usually talk about this kind of stuff, but the two things for me was like my job. One of the main reasons I left my job, other than being so excited about Bitcoin, was because I had to work. They basically banished me from the office. And, you know, I liked my job. I liked the work that I did. I loved the people at work more than anything. But it was a joke that I had to do it from home. And I hated doing it from home. I felt like I was in a prison cell. I was in my little office doing accounting while everybody else was at the office. And I had to be at home. Like, just think about how fucking stupid that is. Looking back on it, but that's how it was. And so it ended up forcing me, you know, to leave my job to do other things. And it was the best thing that could have happened for me, for sure. Like, I have zero regrets. Not one day has been spent wishing I was still doing what I was doing. But it's still, that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean my company was right to do that. Certainly doesn't mean the government was right, the provincial, the federal government, anybody else who was trying to talk about that and force it on people was right. But the other thing too was the what was it? Oh, it was my brother's wedding. My little brother was getting married in January, and I wasn't allowed to go to the wedding. And it was this whole thing. It was like an absolute war between my family and her family and everybody. So I was the best man in my brother's wedding, and I wasn't allowed to go to the fucking wedding. So it's like, that's a huge thing. Thank God they shut things down. They had to postpone the wedding. It was the next summer and I could go to it then. But like, I was weeks away from like having to miss my own brother's wedding. And there was people who lost their parents, lost their grandparents, and they weren't able to go visit them in the hospital before they died. Like, we should not just move past this. We should not just accept a sorry, even though there has been no sorries. But we shouldn't just move past this and allow the people who put this on us to get away with it. And I don't think we should ever stop talking about it, even though it is dark, even though it's depressing. But like, people need to pay for what they did. And it wasn't just because they believed it was the right thing. It was because a lot of these leaders were getting significant kickbacks and funding to do this. And they have to pay for it. Why'd you guys do this to me on Friday? Okay, that's it. That's enough about that. I said what I needed to say. Stake your Bitcoin at the bank. No, don't stake it. Like, you won't give them full access to your Bitcoin. They'll just hold a key. You'll hold a key. Maybe somebody else, your lawyer, will hold a key. And you'll be able to take out money with it. My customers would laugh when I said I accept Bitcoin or not know what it is. Now more and more know what it is. One day I'll get someone to pay me in Bitcoin. It's a glorious thing. We've been selling lots of things at King Golf for Bitcoin. And that's just part of, the network. And Adam's in the network. But unless you're actually, sticking your neck out a little bit here and going to meetups and starting communities and joining Signal chats and whatever else, like, it's never just going to come to you. You have to go out and do it, right? So on Nostr, like, I've been very active on there intentionally. I've been building a network on Nostr. We've accepted a lot of Bitcoin for a lot of our King Golf products. And I've met a lot of great people on there. Some of them who watch the show, some of them who I chat with, some of who I consider friends. And, it was my initiative though. They didn't come to me. I found them. So if you are somebody has a business, you want to start accepting Bitcoin, you have to take the initiative. People aren't going to come to you. You have to go out there and find people and network and grow your reputation within Bitcoin and Nostr and the Bitcoin communities. So that, I have a longer term goal within Living in the Future to have like an actual B2B network where you can sign up, you can advertise your business on there. I'll talk about it on the show. It's hard. There's just so many opportunities in Bitcoin right now, and I can only do so much at a time. But kind of on that note, and where I'll cut off this end of the conversation is, if you are out there and you have a business, even if you don't have like an official business, let's say you're a painter, or you want to do more graphic design, or you want to build websites or help people grow their business. If you want to start a business, if you want to start helping people, if you want to start accepting Bitcoin, you have to reach Bitcoiners. So what I'm proposing is, like, if you're out there, if you're listening to this either live or later, shoot me an email and say, I want you to promote my company on your channel, and we'll figure out a rate. I guarantee you the daily Bitcoin journey is going to be the cheapest, least expensive option for you by a long shot. And you can pay in Bitcoin. So let's say Adam wants to advertise on the Bitcoin journey. He'll pay me like what? Say 50,000 sats for a couple shows. Like, it's insignificant for dollar wise. And then I'll talk about the show, and it's going to Bitcoiners. The only people you're going to get to pay for products and services in Bitcoin are Bitcoiners. The show talks to Bitcoiners. So I've seen some of the rates that other Bitcoiners charge companies and people to advertise on their show. And I'll tell you, my rates are a fraction of that. So if you're interested, just shoot me an email, 88sats@proton.me. Say, here's my business. Here's what I want you to say. I'll tell you how much it costs. Trust me, it's minimal. But I just want to help people. I want to help people grow their network. I want to help people find other Bitcoiners and connect people. And I'm happy to help promote any Bitcoin businesses out there. So that's my offer to you today. Pasty says, did you get vaccinated then? I'm not going to answer that, because, you know, throughout the whole thing, that was my main issue with it, is that I wasn't against it. I wasn't for it. I was under the opinion that it's nobody's fucking business. And I'm not saying that to be like a dick to you, Passy, but that's how it was. Like, everybody was asking the questions like, so did you get it? And I'm like, since when do I tell you what, like, if I had chlamydia, like, would you ask me about that? Would I be comfortable sharing that information with you? Probably not. As my employer, I'm probably not going to tell you that. So it's like, medical information not only should be up to everybody themselves, but you should never have to tell anybody any sort of personal medical information. So I'm sure you could figure out whether I did or not, but that's besides the point. I didn't think you should then, and I don't think you should now ever have to tell anybody your personal medical information. Ian says, where do I sign up for it? Just shoot me an email, 88sats@proton.me, and say, you know, just put in the subject line, Bitcoin business. Give me a little spiel of what you want me to say. And I'm more than happy to help promote Bitcoiners and businesses, and for, again, a very, very, very cheap fee. But at the same time, like, I know it's valuable because my whole audience is Bitcoiners. The channel's been growing like fucking crazy here. Hold on. I'll get you some information on it. We got over 4,500 subscribers now on YouTube. We 673 new subscribers this month. 16,000 views in the last 48 hours on the videos. 16,000. So it's like, I don't know, if I was a business owner who had some Bitcoin and wanted to get in front of Bitcoiners, like, could you imagine a better option for you? So I don't really talk about that too much because it's, you know, I want to keep this channel as I don't have any ads on the live streams either. So I kind of rely on like the Bitcoin Journeyman on the YouTube channel, the Living in the Future members, the super chats, the zaps, Arnie's wallet, even though these are all Arnie sats. But I mean, that's how support the channel. But again, I want to keep doing this. And I feel like I bring a lot of value to people who watch the show. And, you know, I definitely undersell myself a lot of time. So yeah, Ian, just reach out to me. We'll chat about it. And anybody else out there too. Kaplata says, I know you already talked about this a lot, but unit bias truly is the number one factor that prevents people from getting into Bitcoin. We should establish sats as a standard. So here's the thing with that, is that it's not really up to us, right? It's not really up to us, because if you tried developing a SAT standard right now, it would be 1 SAT equals less than one like 0.001 of a cent. It doesn't make any sense. But that's when, when we get to a SAT standard, how that's going to happen is when Bitcoin gets to $1 million US. Because when Bitcoin gets to $1 million US, that means that 1 SAT is equal to 1 cent. And that's when you can start seeing the price in sats, right? So instead of like $1 million Bitcoin, it's going to be 1 cent sats. And then it's going to be 2 cents per sat, and then $1 per sat. And nobody's going to know what the price of Bitcoin is, because they don't have the math there in their head. But we'll know. But again, it's not really up to us. We can't just decide, we want to move to a SAT standard. It's going to be when the fiat price is a recognizable amount, or a, acceptable amount for the Bitcoin, for sats. So it won't happen until we hit $1 million Bitcoin, unfortunately. But yeah, that's it. Duchess, Delta Uniform Tango Charlie Hotel Echo Sierra Sierra. All right. Says hello, Jor and Arnie. We'll see what Arnie's up to here. He's moved closer to me now. Arnie. Just woke him up. We woke up Arnie. We're going to go for a walk right away. Shouldn't have said that word. Anyways, we're going to wrap things up here. We're 2 hours and 11 minutes. Enjoying these litter shows. My dog just sent Arnie a few sats. There you go. Thank you. And we got Bob Smithers here, says, keep up the great work, Jor. Got to run. All right, we got to run too. Hey, Arn? We got to run. So with that, just to round things out, I guess, for today, for the week, consider like the ad stuff. Like if you're a business person, or if you want to be a business person, like understand the amount of leverage you're going to have in the future, the amount of leverage you have today. So if you want to get in front of more Bitcoiners, just reach out to me. We'll figure out a very reasonable rate. We'll talk about it on the show, and hopefully we'll get some traffic to your website or to your email or wherever. So don't wait for people to come to you in terms of accepting Bitcoin as a business owner or like a consultant, but you have to put yourself out there. And I think something like this is the perfect way to do it. So that's number one. But if you actually want to be part of a community, of a network, and you want to talk to people about Bitcoin, then join Living in the Future. It's $5 a month. You can get 7 days for free. You get added to the Signal chat, the Discord. You get the multi-generational wealth course included in that. And the bigger your network, the faster you can leave the fiat world. And that's the whole point of this. That's how we started the show. That's how we're going to end the show. So thank you to everybody on Zap Stream today. Thank you to who we got here. I'm just going to double check, make sure we got everybody. Sergio was the Fat Zap today on Fat Zap Friday. We had, who was this? Hobbit, I think. Now it's just showing NPubs. There we go. Hobbit, Sergio, Pasty, Sunshine, Great Gazoo, Mark, Spaceman, and the folks who topped up my balance today. Very much appreciated. And we had, I said walk, now Arnie's up. Good thing I didn't say it earlier. And we had a super chat from our good friend Daniel Droidzer, $5. And everybody else, thanks for being here, part of the chat, making the show what it is. It's such an exciting time. If you're a Bitcoiner, it's an exciting time for this channel, for this community, for Bitcoiners. We're going to have a very, very fun year here. So focus number one on protecting your sats, understanding how valuable they are, understanding how scarce they are. Protect your sats. Do whatever you can. If you have to hire somebody, if you have to invest some money in a new device, but just protect your sats at all costs. Second one is join some sort of Bitcoin network if you can. It doesn't have to be living the future, but it's the best one out there. And then just focus on adding value to people. Understand where the world's moving to. We're moving into a totally different world here. So the sooner you can recognize that and start preparing for that, the better off you're going to be. So have yourselves an amazing Friday. Cheers once again. Have a great weekend. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you right back here first thing Monday morning, the usual time. The afternoon shows are done for now. Bye-bye.